More than welcome. We're also gonna have, we have Joyce here. The last time we talked about dreams, she wasn't here.
I
So,
could show you a dream. But I think I might have told it before.
well, wait, I. Give me 1 second. I do want to, I want to let everybody in and I want to make sure we're recording and all that kind of good. I don't want anyone to miss something. Unless you don't want anyone to hear this, Mike.
It's just weird.
Yeah, well, so what's the dream? Don't go away too far. Don't walk away.
I was like 23 at the time.
Uh-huh.
Nobody in my life ever really passed away.
Uh-huh.
And my aunt passed away on July 4th of '82. And I took it really, really hard. We were really close. She was like a second mom to me. And a few months later, I had a dream. All night long, someone was saying, and she called me Mikey. Mikey, wait for my phone call. I didn't know who it was, but just someone was saying that all night long.
Oh my.
Well, I had my own phone at the time. And the next morning, my phone rang. Picked it up, no one was there, it was static. And the background was calling me.
Oh my.
I deducted that was my aunt saying, get off your ass and get over it and move on.
Hmm.
And that's something
And
I'll
then
never
you
forget.
did.
I did.
Good.
I did. I wasn't doing good at work. I had just started a new job. I wasn't doing well. Time to move on.
Good for you.
So sometimes that's an interesting way to begin because Mike kind of illustrates, sometimes we want our dreams to hold messages for us of things that either are going to happen, that have happened, that someone would talk to us who's passed in a dream, but something mystical would happen to our dream, in our dream, that we would get something from. And we saw that a couple weeks ago when we read the first part of this dream discussion about dreams. We know from the Bible how important dreams are. We have especially Joseph interpreting dreams and having dreams that foretell things. So a lot of times, and I do want to like state the obvious, when people talk about dreams and dream interpretation, as we saw last week and or 2 weeks ago, and we'll see again this week, that dream interpretation oftentimes is there because people want to know what their dreams mean and find some secret in the dream, right? They want to find something about the future, something, some message, some prediction, something that's going to help them be more successful, to be happier, to help them understand it, which of course, to some extent implies then that things are fated, because if you can dream about the future, that means that to some extent it's already laid out. So that's one thing. And we see that even in the Joseph dreams. When Pharaoh tells him his dreams, and even the courtiers in the jail, when they tell them the dreams, Joseph tells them what's going to happen. Same thing, again, with this kind of idea that these things are going to happen. And then Joseph tells the Pharaoh, of course, if you follow my recommendations, this is the way to deal with the years of plenty followed by years of famine. So this is what's going to happen. It's already been set in motion. That's what Joseph literally says to him. This is definitely going to happen. Now, this is what you need to do in order to live with it. So what's really interesting about that is that, of course, Pharaoh follows those dreams, and then the Egyptians become super successful, and then it allows for Joseph's brothers to come down, and they are reunited, and everything else that happens. But the dream didn't the dream foretold what was happening. So it was a prediction, if you will. It was looking into the future. But what really happened was the Pharaoh was prepared to deal with what would happen. I'm going to make a point here at the beginning, which I probably should make at the end, but I want to make it so that I don't forget to make this point. What's really interesting about this idea in our tradition is that the dreams that we're going to discuss and that you're going to see and the symbols that we're going to see deal with, of course, what do our dreams mean? But the simple the simple explanation that if you knew what was in your dreams, that would help you, that would give you some advantage, right? You'd know what stocks to buy because I dreamt about it. Well, the stock's going to go up, but I know I have insider information. Here's the interesting thing. I can tell you without a doubt that in the coming months in your life, sometime maybe even in the coming days, you're going to have some really good days and you're going to have some really bad days. I can guarantee you that. What's really interesting is that how we deal with that information, how we'll deal with those circumstances when we get to them is really the key to life. And that's what the dream interpretation really comes down to. And so what's really interesting about this is that what happens in the dream interpretations, as we're going to see, we've already seen and we'll see again today, is that what really happens is really more psychology than it is mystical powers. Because what a good psychologist would do with somebody is help them understand. And again, whether it's the stuff that they say that's a Freudian, we're going to interpret your dreams, or we're going to talk about something that you keep seeing or whatever, some idea that keeps coming in your head, and we're going to deal with it. What you're doing with that person, that person is helping you cope with the information that you have. And that really hasn't changed.
No,
Why do you think in the early part of the 1900s, and even into the middle part, especially after Freud, there was a huge emphasis or importance in psychotherapy of dream interpretation?
Yeah.
That no longer exists today.
Correct.
It's not done today.
So Joyce is a therapist. So Joyce, why do you think dream interpretation isn't as much a part of therapy anymore?
because it is not talked about publicly. But when people come in and tell me their dreams, I work with the dreams because dreams come from what is on the client's or my own mind before I go to sleep. And sometimes the dreaming process is a problem-solving process. And what happens in the dream can be interpreted more than one way, but if you help people talk about it, they come up with solutions. I don't come up with the solutions. They come up with the solutions because they are working with it consciously after dreaming about it slightly subconsciously.
Right, but that may take place in your practice.
Yes,
But why do you think other people aren't doing it as much?
Not being done in how to put it, in psychotherapy in America, at least from my understanding, is it's not what it was many years ago. It's not
It's not
stress.
prominent,
Right.
but it is part of therapy when it comes up. And when it comes up, if a client comes in and says, I had a bad drink, or I had an upsetting dream, you work with that. You don't say, well, most therapists don't work with that now. You don't say that.
But what I'm saying is, I think that it's not.
It happens more than you think.
It's not being initiated.
But to get to Philip's point, I think that I think some of it deals with a over reaction and a rejection of Freudian analysis. And so
Yes.
Freud, there's so much baggage attached to Freud now that almost anything he did and spoke about has been rejected.
Yes.
It's starting to be reevaluated because, as everybody knows, we overreact, and then we come back and we say, but what's so interesting about what Freud did, and I did want to mention this, and thank you for bringing this up, Philip. What Freud did, and of course, I don't think it's coincidental that it was a Jewish person who did it. And by the way, towards the end of his life, Freud got more and more Jewish as the anti-Semitism around him increased. And as a lot of people know, he fled from Austria and lived the rest of his life in London. The more he experienced the anti-Semitism that he experienced in his native home, in his homeland, he became more and more Jewish. And his reaction to it was to draw back to his tradition. But that being said, I think he was very influenced by his tradition. Look, a lot of people, again, when the emphasis that he put on dream interpretation opened up. Look, the thing that's ridiculous is that if it wasn't for Freud, we wouldn't have the modern study of psychology, which, whether he was right about everything or not, and we know he wasn't now, we know he was not, but the person who's the groundbreaking pioneer and stuff is oftentimes not 100% accurate, but you have to give the man credit for opening up the door for everything. The whole concept of evaluating people's, a subconscious and to understand these kind of ideas couldn't have existed without Freud. So I know there's a lot of baggage, there's a lot of stuff he did that was wrong, there was abuse, there was other stuff. I mean, I don't even know where to begin, but that's not the point. The point is that if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have an entire discipline and, more importantly, a whole therapeutic practice to help people with. You can't, I don't know how you can overstate that. He was, and people have said it before, I'm not the first person to say it, he's one of the most important people that lived in the 20th through the 20th century, period. And of course, again, the irony, or maybe really not the coincidence, that two of those people were Jews who lived in Germany and Austria. Freud and Einstein were two of the most important minds of the last century, is not a coincidence. And it's something that, again, when we talk about what happened, and look, there are people who would say that the three greatest minds of the 19th and 20th century are Freud, Einstein, and Karl Marx. I will tell you, obviously there's a lot of real baggage with Karl Marx, but Karl Marx also did at least open up our minds to the idea of understanding economic theory on a level that most people had never thought of until he at least exposed us to those ideas. So anyways, I'm not the first person that said that triad of Jews from German speaking countries. That allows us to include Freud with Einstein and Marx. But yeah, I mean, that environment of German culture. Look, it's the same thing today that if I told you, if some of the greatest entrepreneurs in the internet are Zuckerberg, Page, all the guys that were behind some of these, obviously Elon Musk was one of them, but there's so many Jews that were pioneers in the internet revolution. Again, it's not a coincidence that they're American Jews who primarily went to Ivy League and similar universities like Stanford and stuff like that, and they helped shape the digital age that we live in. Anyways. So I do want to just go back to one line, though, to kind of go to what Joyce just said, which the Talmud said thousands of years ago. How will you know the thoughts of your heart? By their being revealed to you in a dream. Rava said, know that this is the case. For one is neither shown a golden palm tree nor an elephant going through the eye of a needle. That's where we talked about the famous line from the Christian Bible. In a dream. In other words, dreams only contain images that enter a person's mind, which means the things that we see during the day affect our dreams, and that's where they play out.
And you have a good night's sleep.
Sometimes.
Well, no.
Sometimes you don't.
You have REM sleep. You're not remembering your dreams.
Yeah. Well,
So
not necessarily. Not John. Not necessarily. It's not necessary. It's not necessary. That's not necessarily true. I'm just telling you that might be your experience, but that's not always.
My Psych 101 class, his name was Dr. Robert Doctor. He gave us a way to remember your dreams. And it worked, as I recall. You think about, you're gonna remember dreams once you wake up, and you do. So,
Look,
yeah.
I will tell you, some people remember their dreams and they've had good sleep, but sometimes, yeah, I mean, depends on the person. I'm just saying, so it just depends. It could be in your experience, that's the case. It could be that's
Well,
the.
about you, John.
Sean is going to be in your dream now, by the way. I'm just going to tell you. I don't know if you realize that, but now that's going to be in your dream. So there's strange things that happen in our dreams, right? There's strange things. And the rabbis will oftentimes say that the things that we see in our dreams are not literally going to happen. And sometimes they'll connect them to words, they'll connect them to messages, or they'll connect them to things that are not necessarily what you think they would be, which is interesting because whether or not the following stories are helpful to you, they should be helpful. If the specific details in them are not helpful, at least understand that the rabbis understood, and they're not the only people who said this. There were other people in those days. We know about Egyptian dream interpretation and Babylonian dream interpretation from their literature. That was very important for them. That people understood that there are things in their dreams that aren't necessarily literally what you see. And so if you see something violent happening to you, it doesn't necessarily mean something violent's going to happen to you in this world. That's not, and they make that very clear. So again, some of these specific things are very weird, and the things in our dreams are sometimes very weird. But just understand that the biggest point is they don't necessarily, you'll see, they don't necessarily mean literally what's going to happen. So here's one. Bar Kappara said to Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, and again, Judah Hanasi is Judah the prince, the one who edited the Mishnah that was the backbone of the Talmud. So Judah Hanasi lived around 200. So around the time of Gladiator, by the way, just so you know, Gladiator 2 time. I saw in a dream that my nose fell off. What does my dream mean? He said to him, this is an illusion that anger, haron off, which means literally anger is your nose blowing, kind of falling or blowing up, that has been directed against you has been removed from you, which means that anger against you is no longer there. The anger has fallen off. Bar Kappara said to him, I saw in a dream that my 2 hands were cut off. Rabbi said to him, that's Judah Hanasi, same guy, sometimes just called Rabbi, said to him, this dream means that you will not require the labor of your hands. You don't need your hands, as you will be rich and you will have considerable means without effort. Bar Kappara said to him, I saw my 2 legs were cut off. Rabbi Judah Hanasi said, you are riding a horse. He said to him, I saw that they were saying to me that in the month of Adar I will die and I will not see Nisan, which is the springtime. You're not going to make it to spring. I'm going to die in like February, March. He said to him, you will die in glory, not Adar, but Adruta, which is Aramaic for glory, and you will not be brought to temptation, Nisan. So he's saying, no, it's not Adar and Nisan. It's you will be glorified and you will not be brought into temptation. So all of his bad things he thought were bad things were not. Okay, well, that's nice. It's an interpretation that the things you see are not necessarily bad. Now, this one's an very interesting dream interpretation, not so much in the symbols that we see in it. It's kind of a long one. I'll warn you ahead of time. But what's interesting about this is that this is a heretic. Well, it's translated as heretic, but the Hebrew word for it is a mean. The word is mean. Aminah is the Aramaic. Aminah or Amin is probably a Jew who is either become Christian or is Romanized, Hellenized, and is not living a Jewish life anymore. So we don't know, because the word mean is usually translated in the Talmud, or the Talmud translations we do, as a heretic. In some more modern translations, it will be a sectarian, which could be almost anything. But whatever it is, it's usually understood as somebody who's not living, well, it's somebody who should be living a Jewish life who's not. So it's somebody who's gone off the deep end. We don't really know what that means, though. It's not specific. Some of these seem to be, I want to say made up, but they don't seem to necessarily always, they seem to be kind of cautionary tales sometimes, and maybe embellished, if you will. So this is like a little tale, and this is written in Aramaic. So here it is. A certain heretic said to Rabbi Ishmael, I saw in my dream that I was irrigating olives with olive oil. What is the interpretation of my dream? He said to him, it is a sign that you had relations with your mother. As oil comes from the olive, he is returning oil to the olives. The heretic said to Rabbi Ishmael, I saw that I was plucking a star. He said to him, you kidnapped an Israelite man, as Israel is likened to the stars. The heretic said to him, I saw that I swallowed a star. Now remember, he's telling him he saw all these things. And then he's telling him, you did all these things. And he said to him, you sold the Israelite man whom you kidnapped and spent the money that you received from the sale. The heretic said to him, I saw my eyes kissing one another. He said to him, you had relations with your sister. As bless you, as siblings are like two eyes. The heretic said to him, I saw myself kissing the moon. He said to him, you slept with an Israelite woman who is likened to the moon. He said to him, I saw that I was treading in the shade of a myrtle tree. He said to him, you slept with a betrothed young woman. As it was customary to make a canopy of myrtle for betrothal. So that's what the myrtle is. So he's not supposed to be doing any of these things, by the way. He said to him, I saw that the shade was above me and the tree was below me. He said to him, your bed is upside down, which means your relations with the betrothed woman were unnatural. You were having sex in a way that you were not supposed to be having sex. He said to him, I saw ravens circling my bed. He said to him, your wife committed adultery with many men. He said to him, I saw doves circling my bed. He said to him, you defiled many women. He said to him, I saw that I was holding two doves and they were flying. And he said to him, you married two women and dismissed them from your house without a divorce. None of these things are good, right? He said to him, I saw myself peeling eggs. He said to him, you stripped dead people, because an egg is eaten at a meal of comfort, right? That's something we are supposed to eat at a funeral, a meal of comfort, after burying the dead. The same heretic said to him, everything you have interpreted is true, with the exception of this last one. So he says, yeah, everything you said I've done. The last interpretation is not true. Meanwhile, this woman came and said to him, this cloak you're wearing belongs to such and such a man who died, and you stripped him of his clothing. So he didn't realize he had broken the last one, and it turned out he did. So all the things that the guy told him he had done, he had done. And even the one he thought he didn't do, he did. So this is an interesting thing, which the dream actually showed not what was going to happen, but what had happened. And that the dreams were his subconscious, if you will, telling, betraying what he had done. So that's a very interesting situation, because this is not about a dream telling the future, but actually explaining what had happened. So that's a weird one. I told you, it's kind of a long one. Oh yeah, it's not done yet. Not done. This is actually the end of that dream. That last one was, or the story. That last one was the end of that was the end of that part. But I forgot. There's a little postscript here. He said to Rabbi Ishmael, I saw that they said to me in a dream, your father left you property in Cappadocia. And I remembered this now, because this is the future. Cappadocia, right, is in Turkey, right? Modern day Turkey. It was Asia Minor. Cappadocia. In these times, it's called Cappadocia. Cappadocia. We didn't call it Cappadocia. They call it Cappadocia. You can see it right here. Cappadocia. Rabbi Ishmael said to him, do you have property in Cappadocia? The heretic said to him, no. Did your father ever go to Cappadocia? The heretic said to him, no. Rabbi Ishmael said to him, if so, it must be understood as follows. Kappa is Greek word for beam, and deca means 10. Go look at the 10th beam in your house, and you will find that it is full of coins. And he went and found that it was full of coins. So that is a case, again, of the dream telling him a secret that was there, but he didn't know it was there. So Cappadocia there in that case meant Cappadeca. Okay. So that's an interesting story, because it seems like, by the way, that the guy got rewarded at the end of the story. It's like, why is that guy getting rewarded at the end of the story? He seems like kind of a really bad guy. But that's the end of that story. So it's a weird story, very weird story. I don't really know, again,
And there isn't a logical lesson behind it either.
no, other than the dreams that we have
Reveal.
reveal certain truths. So it's, it's part of the dreams, but it's a long one. That's a very long story. The Gemara continues dealing with interpretations of the details of dreams. Rabbi Hanina said, one who sees a well in a dream sees peace. As it is said, and Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found there a well of living water. And that's from a Torah portion we actually just read, where Isaac digs up wells. So wells in the Torah are a sign of peace. Rabbi Natan says, one who sees a well in his dream, it is a symbol that he has found Torah, as the well symbolizes Torah. It is stated with regard to the Torah in a book that we're about to read next week in our Tuesday class, for whoever finds me finds life. That's from Proverbs. And it is written here, a well of living water. And we see that a well is linked to Torah, as both are associated with life. Rava said, the well in the dream symbolizes actual life. So some people say the well represents peace. Some people say it represents Torah. And some people say it's life. So not likely going to pop up in your dreams, wells, because we don't really hang around wells anymore. But for in the ancient world, it's where you got your water. It's where people came together in the center of town by the well. It was a place of meeting, and it was very important. So wells don't have the same kinds of associations today. I guess if you have a dream that you're sitting by the Sparklets machine, what does that mean? The water cooler, the water cooler. So that's one thing there. So that's a little bit about wells or water, or at least in those days, what water represented. Yeah. Rabbi Hanan said, there are three items seen in dreams that are indications of peace: a river, a bird, and a pot. The Gemara elaborates, a river, as it is written, I will extend peace to her like a river. So these are all finding lines in the Torah that tell us that these things, that's why these things are what they are. A bird, as it is written, as birds hovering, so will the Lord of hosts protect Jerusalem. That's from Isaiah 2. And a pot, as it is written, Lord, you will establish tishpot, peace for us. So, and it's not tishpot is not a pot, but it's the word establish, is similar to that word. And that's again from Isaiah. Peace is likened to a pot, which is placed shafat on the fire. And Rabbi Hanina said, we learn that a pot in a dream is a sign of peace with regard to a pot that does not have meat in it, as a pot that has meat in it symbolizes calamity. As it is stated, yea, they chop them in pieces as that which is in the pot and as flesh within the cauldron. So interestingly, a pot of meat is not a good thing to see in your dreams, but a pot, maybe with, I don't know, soup in it or something else, water, is okay, but not meat, not flesh. It's interesting that is considered not a good sign. And again, they use the Bible as a proof text for these things. So which came first? Did they look for did they believe that these were things that were there, or did they look at the Torah and then find these allusions to things? I'm not sure, but something we could dream about. Pot. I don't know if anyone's ever had a dream about a pot. You don't have to tell me if you have. It's not important. Yeah. Yeah.
They're ancient dreams
Yeah.
in a time before television and movies,
Uh-huh.
social media. Do you think television, let's start with television, has changed the nature of our dreams?
Oh, no question. There's no question. There's no question, because I think two things. I think it's affected it two ways. There's things that we're exposed to because we watch movies and television, and again, it depends on what you watch, obviously, but because television opens our minds to so many different images so many different things that we wouldn't normally see. The graphics and the videos and things that we see, it places things in our minds that we wouldn't already have. That's without a doubt. So yeah, it just pushes more stuff in. Yeah.
The author Chuck Klosterman wrote about this in one of his books. And the idea that he wrote about was, and he got this actually from a server at a restaurant, is that before television programs, dreams would be different, but what happened with television is there were time jumps. So somebody's in a living room, and then the next scene is they're at work or in another country.
Well, that's the second thing I was going to say. It's not just the images that changed. It's the way our dreams are organized. It's the structure of our dreams. We dream like we watch television now. There's no question. So it didn't just put the images in. The second thing is it changed the way we dream. I know I've had dreams where the dream is like a show, like it's like something I'm watching. I feel myself watching it as if I'm watching an episode.
Right.
And I know that, I mean, if you never were exposed to television, how could you ever do that? You couldn't dream like that.
That was the point that he was making, that before television, a dream would be linear in terms of its time frame. You wouldn't jump from one point to another. Now we do.
I think, yeah, but I think it's also, I mean, I would have thought movies could do that too, but I think you're right, because it used to be, it wasn't done in movies, or wasn't done often in movies, but now there's a lot. I mean, Christopher Nolan does movies all the time that are nonlinear. Every movie he makes essentially almost is nonlinear.
Right, but like a big movie right now is Wicked.
Yeah.
But if you go back and watch The Wizard of Oz, it's a linear film. It doesn't jump.
Yeah.
It begins and then ends.
But Wicked is nonlinear. Wicked is a flashback.
Yeah, but they didn't have flashbacks in early movies.
No, I know, but now it's very common.
And they
But
jump, like Christopher Nolan is jumping all over the place.
Yep. So I think what I think is interesting though is I think that as we are exposed to more, look, there were some people that played around with this aspect of visual media a long time ago. It didn't really fly because they didn't like it. I mean, Salvador Dali, and Buñuel made movies when movies first came out. They were experimenting with film to create dreamlike movies, and people didn't like them. People didn't like to see nonlinear and symbolic. They don't like it today. I mean, even when movies veer off into that today, they don't like it because they can't figure it out. I mean, Christopher Nolan doing Inception is probably the greatest example of that, where some people liked it and some people were like, I can't even figure this thing out. So, but movies that were dreamlike to some extent have always had a difficult place, with people because they don't seem to want to see dreamlike experiences unfold for them visually. They don't like to see that in their waking hours. It's uncomfortable for them. It's jarring, and people, they don't consume it. I can't think of too many movies that are dreamlike. Interesting, Wizard of Oz is probably one of the more dreamlike movies that I've ever seen that's been successful, but it's a very dreamlike movie. I mean, and again, the whole thing in the end is essentially a flashback, is a dream sequence anyways. It's Dorothy waking up, realizing that her people were all characters in her mind, which people hate when usually they hate that, right? They just pulled that in a season of some show, and people flipped out. I can't remember what it was. It turned out that the whole season was a dream, and they went crazy. They went ballistic. It was some shit. No, it was Newhart, but there was one recently. There was one like in the last year or so where people were watching it, and then they were told that the whole thing was like the last episode turns out to be a dream, and they flipped out. was just recent. I can't remember. It was some show recently. And no, but it was that people didn't like that. So when people are given stuff where they're the at the end, come on, what, it was a TV show that was just on. Like, it was like in the last 6 months. I don't know what to tell you, but it was somebody who did it, and people lost their minds when they realized that the whole season that they had just watched was a dream. But they did it with Dallas. That was the thing where everyone got really, really mad when Bobby turned out to be alive and the whole thing. Oh, that was just a dream. That was all dreams. People get invested, they get invested in it like it's real. And then when they're told it wasn't real, and the whole thing's not real. But yeah, anyways, I can't remember what it was recently, but it just happened and people don't like it. So it's kind of weird that like when the whole thing, like the whole thing was a dream, but it is weird that people didn't react badly to Wizard of Oz when they pulled that off at the end, when it turns out she never left her bed. I don't know, whatever. No, no, that's lost.
Oh, the other one.
The other one. Oh, remember our family was on it?
No,
The red or the reed?
no, that's the thing at what's it called? The Win. No, no, this was a show that was just on this last season's, and people they lost their minds when they found out that the whole thing was like, it didn't matter to the narrative, if you will. Anyways, but yes, to Philip's point, it definitely has affected our dreams. It's impossible for people who live in a society where we're so influenced by the media of television and movies that it doesn't affect our dreams. It does. Not only the fact that the things that we see in the movies, as I said, I think the bigger issue is we start dreaming about things that we see in the movie. So, okay, but it's not just, look, I'll be doing, I don't know, whatever, be playing Wordle or some game, on the computer, whether it's whatever it was, Tetris or whatever, some kind of mind game that I'm playing, that's using my mind. I'll dream about it when I'm sleeping. Like I'll be like, why was I dreaming about doing those things? I did it because I did it before I went to sleep. Yeah, I do. I mean, you dream about it's terrible.
Yes.
I know. I've done it too. Whatever I'm doing, the last stuff that I'm doing makes its way in the dream. I'm like, that's stupid. Why am I? And sometimes I've gotten up, I was like, why was I dreaming about? That's not real. I mean, like, of course it's not real, but I was doing a puzzle, I was doing Wordle. Yeah, Jesse.
Interpreting dreams that just don't make any sense.
Well,
That's all
a lot of, but a lot of these,
Yeah.
no, a lot of these are, and you'll see. Let's get.
Like these dreams are talking about the contents in them. Like,
Mhm.
oh, I had a dream with a river. Okay, well, it's about peace. Or like, oh, I had a dream that, oh, I lost my legs. Like, okay, well, then you won't. That wasn't the whole dream. Like, my whole dreams are full of things that are physically impossible. Like sky cities and walking on.
Well, no, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, but your dreams are probably being affected by, images and things that you're seeing, whether it's a video game or whether it's a movie or something you're reading. It's affecting your dreams.
The computer games I play make rational sense and are physically real. Because they're realistic games.
So you're saying that the things that you're dreaming have no connection to the things that you're thinking about during the day?
I'll tell my friends the few times I remember them, and I always start the day by waking up and going, what was that about?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
That's usually what ends up waking me up. Is in my dream, I'm like, this isn't physically possible. And then I wake up because I realize that there's no way that could have been real.
So what's interesting about that, Jesse, is that for somebody your age, I would normally say, well, it's because you're watching or you're playing a video game that this stuff was in, and that's how it got in there. But if that's not how it's happening, that is interesting that it's not coming about through the experiences or the thoughts you're having during the day, even the ones that are being put in there by media. But I'm trying to think if any of the ones we're going to read today touch on the ones, on the things that are completely impossible. No, they didn't really talk that much about it. I'm trying to think if they really deal with that. I mean, look, I will tell you this. I will tell you that I mean, look, I know what you're saying. You're saying, well, they're talking about a river, they're talking about a bird. But when the guy's telling them the dream to the rabbi, the heretic was telling the dream, he says he swallowed a star. And that's not rational. That's not logical. You can't swallow a star. So I mean, they do touch on it. I mean, I think some of these things are here. You know, an elephant going through the eye of a needle. I mean, that's not a rational thing. That's not a thing that can happen. So I think those things are there, and I think I think that they're still looking for. Well, let's read. Let's see if you think so. Yeah.
It seems to me that the people of the ancient time were more likely to take their dreams literally and act upon them. And what I mean by this is when I read Herodotus's The Histories this past summer, there's a section where the Persian king has a dream that he's to invade and attack the Greeks. And he acts on it. He acts on his dream, even though his ministers all tell him, don't do it. Bad idea, all the logical reasons not to attack Greece. He ignores them, but follows the dream.
Mhm.
And today, can you imagine a leader of a country saying, oh, I had a dream that I should, invade Canada. So I'm gonna order the military to go.
So look, in the ancient world, it was completely legitimate to say that the reason that we made these decisions were based on the general or the king's dream interpretation, because some of the other options were, what does that constellation tell us we're going to do?
Right.
What does this bird that I just opened up, what does its liver say that I should do? What do these, what do these bones that I'm now tossing onto the ground tell me I'm going to do? So, a dream wasn't necessarily less helpful.
That brings up the question, because isn't Judaism the first one that says to not partake in divination?
Yep. And so Judaism was trying to push that stuff out. When
I'm thinking, I thought about this is.
Yes.
That with the later Christian understandings where they take stuff
there's no question.
very literally, but then also put superstition on the dreams through the medieval ages.
So Jesse's right. There's two exceptions, and one of them is really not an exception because it is kind of laid out in the Torah. But look, the Torah is very specific about certain things that are divination that are wrong. The divinations, things that require speaking to the dead, definite no. That's considered way out of line. We know that from several places. So necromancy, what we call necromancy today, is definite no. Using amulets and using divination and those kind of things was also a no. Now, another thing that was a no, what doesn't seem to go away, is the constellations, is the stars. Now, that's called, in Hebrew, it's Ovadim Kochavim, serving the stars. Now, the rabbis would say worshiping the stars as independent bodies that are separate from God is a no. They would say that the effect that being able to read the stars effectively is a form of science. And they would tell you that the stars do tell us what's going to happen. They firmly believe that. So there was a opening there. The other opening is this one that we're reading right now, which is dream interpretation. And the reason I think that it was really allowed, and I was going to get to this, but Jesse opened it up, which is it's always great to open this up because there's a reason why this is here and why this is. So there's not extensive discussions about what we would call astrology today. They called it astronomy slash astrology. There's not a lot of discussion about it in the Talmud, but it is there. It is there. And it's definitely not a focal point of Jewish understanding or Jewish practice, though there are rabbis who clearly, the Talmud says that rabbi was very good at understanding the stars, patterns and what's happening. The stars were put there by God, and so they're there. And however they're moving, that's the way they're moving by God's command. And so, if you will, understanding that is just understanding the universe. The rabbis had tremendous respect for the Babylonians, who they felt were really good at doing this. So the Talmud talks about it because they lived in the Babylonian communities in the Persian and that part of the world. They had deep respect for that. And some of the rabbis were students of that, if you will, and continued to be throughout the Middle Ages. I will say that is allowed because it's treated more as a science than it is a superstition or a form of witchcraft. Though it is perilously close to a form of idolatry and a form of polytheism, which is worshiping the stars as gods. That is a god. And they knew that because there were gods in the stars. The Greeks and the Romans and the Babylonians put their gods in the stars. They said that's Hercules. So they knew that. The rabbis knew that and they understood that there was a very fine line between it. But they did treat it to some extent as a science. That's why I say for them it's like more astronomy than astrology.
That's good, depending on, I guess, your context as to what you're using it for, because even today, you can use the position of planets and which constellations are out to tell you what season it is.
Correct. And
But then you're using it as a tool, not something that's
correct.
telling you.
But because information, what it is it's deducing information that's already there, which is okay. The problem with witchcraft and with necromancy is that you're doing something to have a different effect. You're actually trying to affect God's world through your magic, if you will.
Personal response to it, right? Well, 'cause a lot of
Yeah,
people-
yes.
Yes, I can tell it's winter because I can go outside
Yes.
to see that the Orion constellation is up, and that only comes up in the winter, so therefore it's winter. As opposed to saying, oh, I'm just stubborn because the sun rises in Capricorn, so I'm a Capricorn. Like,
So-
that's me
so-
taking away my own responsibility.
Correct,
as a
but
astrologist.
I will tell you, there is a very fine line, and the rabbis knew that. They're conscious of it, and I always found it interesting that they found it less problematic unless you were worshiping the stars to give you an outcome, which people did. So partly because of that, Jesse, partly because they recognize that there's a science to this. As people were trying to say, hey, look, it's the season where when this star is up in the sky, it's time to start planting. When this star is up in the sky, it's time to start picking the stuff up. Did the star tell you that? I don't know. You read it, you read the stars, you know, and you knew what time of year it was. But that's a science, folks. There's no magic to that. They knew that. So how can you argue that? How can you say that that's not a science? So they knew that. Dream interpretation kind of hovers in the same space because the dreams that you're seeing were put there by God. You didn't make that happen. The dream gave you a vision of what's happening or what is going to happen in some cases, but you didn't do anything. It's information that you got.
I'm just thinking, you're talking about, because you were talking about how using the science of the astronomy, that almost just sounds like more modern day versions of idolatry, right? Where people kind of worship secularism or worship the science.
Well, that's
Right.
a,
It's a separate thing
no,
entirely,
no, but
it's-
that, but I will tell you where you're going, Jesse, and it can be explained very simply with this phrase. The rabbis knew 2,000 years ago that astronomy had its limits, or at least from the standpoint of that guy can't tell me everything that's going to happen. But if they believed that it did and they just didn't understand it, then that becomes an idol for them. Because if they say that the answer is there, but that for whatever reason, I didn't do the right thing for the answer to come to me, then you've essentially turned your life over to it. You're worshiping it. And yes,
Isn't that
you're right.
science?
You're right. At that level, it's your God.
That example you're bringing, you're the falsifiability of it.
Yep. But if God,
Oh, just trust in science, but I can't prove that wrong. I can't prove your theory wrong, so therefore it's an idol to you because you can't
yes,
prove it or not. Whereas, technically, I guess, like a lot of religious or at least Jewish dogma, like can be tested via the science. In a sense, like you can falsify it. You can say, oh, when
there's a very simple way of saying it. I'm trying to say this. It's very simple. If you place your faith wholly into that, then it becomes your idol. So if you're telling me that science can answer everything, then you're worshiping science. It's a fair way to say that. So for us, for Jews, we generally say, for the stuff that we don't understand or can't explain yet, we could say, well, science will eventually tell us this. But if we also, to some extent, say, yeah, but it's all been placed here in the world, even the science in front of us by God, then we're not really putting our faith in science. We're putting our faith in the end in God, or in the immense experience of everything, which I call God. But
then you also get that worship of science, like these days. It's again that thing of personal responsibility, because people say, oh, well, the science tells us. Well, no, the science is an experiment. You told yourself that because you figured it out by doing an experiment.
and
Human understanding.
and at the end of the day, there are people who worship science. You're absolutely right. So let's get back to the river, and because it says rivers, birds, and pots have ambiguous connotations. It's recommended that someone who sees them in a dream recite a verse that interprets the dream positively. Well, now this gets to this issue of turning our dream interpretation into something that we can control. Because if we see something in our dream and then say something positive about it, then we can maybe turn it into something positive. Which now this gets to really a psychological answer to this. So what are we going to do with this information? How are we going to deal with this information? How are we going to deal with something that we dream? We turn it into something positive. This is what they say we do. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi said, one who sees something in a dream that may be interpreted ambiguously should quickly recite an appropriate verse suggestive of a positive interpretation. For example, one who sees a river in a dream should rise early and recite, I will extend peace to her like a river. So make sure you say that first. Make sure you definitely say it before a different verse with a negative connotation. So if you don't say that, this verse might pop into your head. For distress will come like a river, which is from Isaiah. So don't let that verse come in your head. Let that verse come in your head. Think about the positive images in the Bible of these things. One who sees a bird in a dream should rise early and recite, as birds hovering, so will the Lord of hosts protect Jerusalem. That's a great verse about birds. Because this other one is, as a bird that wanders from her nest, so is a man that wanders from his place, from Proverbs. Don't have that in your mind. One who sees a pot in a dream should rise early and recite, Lord, you will establish peace before us. Before a different verse, which concludes with a wrathful prophecy, can precede it from becoming a reality. Set it on the pot, set it on, which is from Ezekiel, when Ezekiel has his horrible vision of a pot spilling, which is the destruction of Jerusalem. So don't think about Ezekiel's vision of a pot. Think about this establishing a peace, which again, tishpot, which is a play on the word. All right, so let's think about the positive versions of these things in the Torah, in the Bible, so that we think about them in a good way. Similarly, one who sees grapes in a dream should rise early and recite, I found Israelite grapes in the wilderness, from Hosea. before a different verse with a negative connotation can proceed into becoming a reality. The grapes are the grapes of gall. Their clusters are bitter. Deuteronomy. One who sees a mountain in a dream should rise early and say, right? How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of the messenger of good tidings that announces peace, the harbinger of good tidings that announce salvation, from Isaiah. Before a different verse with a negative connotation can proceed into becoming a reality. For the mountains will I take up a weeping and a wailing, Jeremiah. So those are a few different things, including now we just also had not just the birds and the rivers and the pots, but grapes and mountains could be in our dreams too. And again, depending on what we say, we can help have positive, those images can turn into a positive message because of things that we have in the Bible. Here's an interesting one. Has anyone ever seen a shofar in a dream? They should rise and recite, and it shall come to pass in that day that a great shofar shall be sounded, and they shall come that were lost in the land of Assyria, and they that were dispersed in the land of Egypt, from Isaiah. Before a different verse in which the shofar is a symbol of war can proceed into becoming a reality. Blow you the horn, the shofar in Givah, from Hosea.
That's
So,
really almost anti-war.
oh yeah, you don't want to hear a shofar. You don't want to hear a battle shofar. You want to hear a shofar calling everybody to come back.
We get up early so we don't.
Yeah, all of these things you're supposed to do as soon as you wake up. All of these things you get up, the first thing you do when you get up is say the good version of it in the Bible before the bad version of it. So what it's telling us, of course, is that all of these things can have bad or good connotations, right? And the Bible uses them in different ways. And if we use the Bible to help ground us into a positive interpretation or a positive outcome with this, we'll have a good feeling. So we use the Bible to help us have a positive vision of these things. One who sees a dog in a dream. Have you ever had a dog in a dream before? Oh my gosh, it's my nightmare. And I wake up and the dog is still there, licking my face.
Isn't that reality?
Yeah, I have to go home for this dog now. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog wet his tongue. That was from Exodus when we left Egypt. The dogs weren't even barking at us. By the way, that's true. According to this, by the way, the Torah says that when we left Egypt or when the night before, the night of the 10th plague, the dogs were all quiet. Yeah. They weren't barking, which they would have, but they weren't. And for that reason, dogs get to eat. That dogs are rewarded from then on by eating whatever scraps you throw at them. Dogs can eat anything, they say. The rabbis interpreted it. Dogs are okay because they didn't make noise when we left. And of course, these are dogs that are probably a little bit scarier than the dog that I have at my house, or the dogs that you may have in your house. Some of you have nice, calm dogs in your house. But these dogs were a little bit more like wolves back then. Sheepdogs or dogs that they took out to scare away wolves and other things. Because look at this. Yeah, they're bad dogs too. Yea, the dogs are greedy. That's from Isaiah. These are dogs that, again, were probably tearing stuff apart, tearing animals apart. One who sees a lion in a dream should rise early and recite, the lion has roared. Who will not fear? The Lord God has spoken. Who could but prophesy? That's from Amos. Before a different verse, which has a negative connotation, proceeded from becoming a reality. The lion has gone up from his thicket, and the destroyer of nations is set out, gone forth from his place, which is from Jeremiah. A lot of the scary stuff is from Ezekiel and Jeremiah. So, yeah, lions could be good in a dream, or they could be a sign of power and good things, or they can be scary. Don't have to be scary. It could be. Here's a weird one. I don't know if you've ever seen this in a dream. One who sees a shave in a dream. Yeah. Shaving, getting shaved, should rise early and recite, and he shaved himself and he changed his raiment, his garments, right? That was from Joseph, when Joseph went, when he left prison and rose to greatness. So that's an example of a shave coming out to a good thing. Sometimes shaving can be not so good, though. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak. You remember who that was, right? Samson. He didn't want to be shaved. So there's examples of shaves that are good and shaves that are not good. So yeah, you could dream about shaving. Interesting. One who sees a well in a dream should rise early and recite a well of living waters from Song of Songs before a different verse, which has a negative connotation, can precede it from becoming a reality. As a cistern wells with her water, so it wells in its wickedness. Jeremiah. One who sees a reed in a dream should rise early and recite, a bruised reed shall he not break. From Isaiah, in praise of the Messiah, before a different verse with a negative connotation can precede it from becoming a reality. Now behold, you trust upon the staff of this bruised reed, which was disparaging depiction of the Egyptians when they were told, don't trust the Egyptians. They're not going to come to your help against the Babylonians. That was a bad reed. So sometimes a reed can be good, sometimes it can be bad. So those are all ways of having verses said. Here's an interesting thing, a little bit about some other things that grow out of the ground. We talked about reeds, so now let's talk about some other stuff. Well, first get with the reed. The sages teach one who sees a reed, kaneh, in a dream should expect wisdom, as it is stated, get kaneh, wisdom. That's from Proverbs. One who sees several reeds should expect understanding, as it says, yea, with all your acquisitions, kinyanecha, acquire understanding. So here the word kaneh or kana in Hebrew, in Aramaic, means a reed, but it also, the word kaneh is a play on the word acquire, koneh, which means to buy or to take, to acquire. So that's a different way of reading it. Good stuff, understanding, wisdom. Rabbi Zera said, pumpkin, heart of palm, wax, and reed. And in Aramaic, that's kara, kura, kira, and kanya. So here it's definitely a play on the words, right? They're all advantageous when one dreams about them. So those are all good things. Pumpkin, heart of palm, wax, and reed. It was taught in a Baraita, a pumpkin is only shown in a dream to one who fears heaven with all his might, because pumpkins, which are also called deluim, are interpreted as an acronym for the word dalu ene lamarom, my eyes were raised on high, which is a line from Isaiah. So here's a pumpkin being called, being an acronym for those three words, which pumpkins are good to have in your dreams. There you go. Probably in our world, they're scary because they're jack-o'-lanterns or something, but for our ancestors, they were not scary. They were good. There's a good sign to have a pumpkin. Now, here's an interesting one because I had a dream about an ox. So I tried to find an answer in this one. It really didn't help. One who sees an ox in a dream should rise early and say, his firstling bullock majesty is his, from Deuteronomy, before a different verse with a negative connotation can proceed into becoming a reality. And if an ox gores a man, which is a very famous line from Exodus, it's one of the important laws in the Torah to deal with your responsibility of having animals that don't hurt people, your liability if you have an animal that does that. There's a whole tractate in the Talmud about goring ox, and your responsibility there. It's huge, huge discussion, which I remember having to study, which seemed very difficult for me to process the relevance of that, since I've very rarely come in contact with an ox at a level where people were worried about it. But yeah, for farmers and people who are around oxes, yeah. But oxes could kill people. So yeah, oxes could be a symbol of power and majesty, but they could also be dangerous. We're not done with the ox. As I said, I had a dream about an ox. I looked in the Talmud to find if there's an answer for it. I don't have an answer. We're not done yet. I know, but it's still not the answer. It's not my answer. It didn't help me. Because in mine, I'll tell you, the sages taught in a Baraita, 5 matters are said about dreams with regard to the ox. One who dreams that he ate flesh from its flesh will become wealthy and do that. One who dreams that it gored him will have sons who are Torah scholars. Well, that seems crazy because that's scary, but well, it's wonderful to have sons who are Torah scholars. That's even better. Who gore each other in an attempt to better understand Torah. That's why they gore each other. They're hitting each other because they're like boys playing in the house, but they're actually encouraging each other to learn Torah more. One who dreams it bit him, suffering is coming to him. Oh, that's not good. So goring him is okay, but biting him is not good. One who dreams that it kicked him will be required to travel a great distance in the future. I guess that's not considered a good thing. One who dreams that he is writing it, it is a sign that he will rise to greatness. I was talking to the ox in mine. Nothing there talking about talking to the ox. So it didn't help me. None of that stuff happened.
Did the ox talk back to you?
Yeah, the ox started the conversation. The ox told me I was going to die. That's why I was scared by it, because he said I was going to die. And then I asked him. I said, I told this story before. I told it a couple of years ago. Fortunately, I lived because the ox told me I only had 2 years to live. That was in 2022, and he said I only had 2 years to live. It was in May, and so it was a black ox as well. So I looked to see if there's anything about black oxes, the color of the ox. So the ox said to me, "You're going to die in 2 years, or you only have 2 more years." And I said, "Is that for sure? Is that definite?" And he says, "I don't know. You're not Mexican." So that was after I almost died in Mexico. Yeah, that's why the dream was there. Because basically I was dreaming, I was processing my near-death experience, and the ox told me that I was going to die, but then he said, "I don't know for sure." But he was also not a full ox. He was a pinata, ox pinata. So it wasn't it wasn't like he was a live ox. So that was definitely not in the Talmud. They didn't have pinatas in the Talmud. So I didn't get any help from it. But yeah, there's one more thing about the ox, because this also didn't happen in my dream.
Because there's the one back here about the guy who said you won't live to see Nissan.
I know, but it was May, but yeah. Yes, so yes, sometimes the dreams aren't that you're gonna die in 2 years. Yes,
Die in Nissan, that you would have trouble coming on.
yeah. Yeah,
Maybe it just means nothing and it's time to move on to.
I know, but 2 years seem very specific. Until those 2 years were up, I was really nervous. It was May. It was this past May.
Some really, really real and.
Yeah, it freaked me out. I felt like I know, but I felt like I got a bonus 2 years. That's what the dream was telling me. I know what the dream was telling me. It was telling me you've got 2 extra years. Go out and do as much as you can in the next 2 years. I don't know. Whatever. I didn't happen, but look, I clearly, if you told you're going to die in a dream, it doesn't mean you're going to die in a dream. It's what we read. No, I wasn't going to die in the dream. I was told I was going to die in the dream. Yes, you're supposed to wake up if you're going to die. You don't die in your dreams. But wait, there's one more part about the ox. The Gemara challenges. Wasn't it taught in a Braita that one who dreams he was writing it, that's a sign he'll die? Because they just said if you write it, you're going to be great. The Gemara responds, no, lo kasha, that's not a problem. Don't give me this. This is not difficult. This, which taught that he will rise to greatness, refers to a case where he saw that he was riding the ox. While this, the other one, which taught that it is a sign of imminent death, refers to a case where the ox was riding him. So if the ox is riding you, it's not a good sign. Okay, that makes sense. If the ox is on top of you, that's not a good sign. But if you're on top of the ox, that's a good sign. Okay, there you go. So that's there were differences of opinion with regard to the ox. Now we're going to get into some other animals. These are weird ones. Behold, one who sees, right, a donkey in a dream should anticipate salvation. As it says, behold, your king comes unto you. He is triumphant and victorious, lowly and riding upon a donkey, from Zechariah. That's, by the way, the whole reason why Jesus has to ride a donkey when he's coming into Jerusalem, because the Messiah is supposed to come in on a donkey. So donkeys in a dream are not necessarily, again, scary. They're actually pretty good because you're going to be saved, right? One who sees a cat in a dream, in a place where in Aramaic they call it a shunra, a nice song, a shira na'ah, will be composed for him. Well, that's very nice. Someone's going to write a nice song about you? Shunra. So yes, in Aramaic, a cat is called a shunra. And the reason why you should know that is because if you sing Chad Gad Ya in Aramaic, we say Chad Gad Ya is Chad Gad Ya. There's a goat and then the cat, the ata shunra, the alcha, the gadya. The cat came and ate the kid. And then, of course, the kalba, the dog, bites the cat, the shunra. So you can learn a little bit about animals in Aramaic if you sing Chad Gadya. In Hebrew, they're called chatulim. They're a chatul. It's a totally different word. So sometimes the Aramaic is totally different. And in this case, the word shunra allows for there to be a word play so that it's a shira na'ah, which isn't even it's not even the same order of the letters, but it kind of sounds like it. So shira na'ah, a nice song will be written for you if you see that. If he sees a cat in a place where they call cats shinra, which is a slightly different pronunciation, like shunra or shinra, it's again how they say it. It's a sign that he will undergo change for the worse, shinuira. So that tells you it all depends on what they call the cat in that area. That could totally determine what happens for the dream, which is really weird because it's the same thing. It's a cat, but it all depends on what they call it in that place where you live. And they're talking about literally just different parts of the Middle East, right? And by the way, just so you know, these differences of pronunciation, these regional dialect issues, these are, you hear these all the time, especially we have it in our country, right? But you also had it in Europe where our ancestors lived. You hear it in regional dialects in Yiddish because, some people would say, they pronounce Yiddish and Lithuanian Yiddish, Litvak Yiddish, Litvish is different than Galicianer Yiddish, the Yiddish that they speak in Poland and Ukraine. And it's different. I mean, it's a slightly different, same words, but the pronunciation will be different. I'll give you an example. So for some Jews, they would say, there's a lot of Yiddish words that people would use that sound different, and people would they would know right away by your Yiddish dialect where you were from because they pronounce these words differently. I'll give you an example, and the words you know.
Is it like favorable towards cats?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Because like European folklore, they usually see cats as a bad omen.
no, in Jewish tradition, they're not. And throughout rabbinic tradition, the cats are good because they get rid of mice and stuff like that.
Bubonic plague in Europe.
Yeah, yeah, because we had cats that would get rid of that would get rid of. Here, I'll give you an example. I'm going to give you an example of the different words that you would hear. So, oh gosh, I don't really why I can't come up with one that's so easy. So like, I'll give you an example. And it's really like Southern versus Northern Yiddish, but it's funny because when I hear it, when people like will write out stuff, where they'll say something, they'll say something different. So I'll give you an example. Let me give you. They will say, I can't find a good one. I don't know, I'll find it later, but I'll think of one later. But I know that there's Yiddish words where I would hear people say it, and I'd be like, oh, that person again is definitely speaking, and they had it with Aramaic too. Oh, but let's get to some of these other animals. So one who sees grapes in a dream and they were white or light colored, regardless of whether it was in their season or not in their season, that's a good sign. So light colored grapes are good. One who sees black grapes in their season, it's a good omen. However, one who sees black grapes when it is not their season, it's a bad omen. So it's very interesting. White grapes, light grapes, any time of the year, it's good. Black grapes, if it's in their season, it's good, but if it's not in their season, it's not good. So that tells you so sometimes it's where you're at, where you live, whether a cat can be a good sign or not. And in this case, whether a grape is in the right season or not when you're dreaming it is a good sign or a bad sign. This is interesting, right? And here, like sometimes it is the color of the animal that makes difference. Because here it says, one who sees a white horse in a dream, regardless of whether the horse is walking or running, it is a good omen for him. One who sees a red horse walking, it is a good omen. Running, it is a bad omen.
Fine.
Very specific. It doesn't say. It doesn't even say what text it's based on. It doesn't even say like it's a play on words. It doesn't say that. And the words that they're using here for Seuss is the word for.
Why would a cat be okay in one place? But not in, but I'm talking about.
It's a play on, it's basically telling you, if you live it, that it's telling you that the images that you see are words. There are things, there are symbols for words and for things that will happen. And so whether a cat is a Shira Na'ah or a Shinui Ra, it's the same thing, but it could be one of two things. And it depends on where you are. It depends on where you are, whether that cat takes on a positive or a negative connotation. Again, it doesn't explain why. It just tells us that the words, at least there, it tells us why or what it's connected to. Here, it doesn't tell us what the horse images are, why one running is bad with a state where it's walking is good. It doesn't say it. Doesn't even give us the context for it.
Is that right?
What does it say there?
Because they're saying that, from Isaiah 1:18, if your sins will be red like wool and they will become white as snow, so that's why red is seen as bad,
Yeah.
because red is.
Yeah.
sin. So that's why.
Well, okay, that makes sense for the color. Well, what's the running part?
That means you're running in a hurry to go and sin.
Okay.
Whereas if it's white means purity, so it doesn't matter if you're running or not.
I get it, but it's still walking. You're walking to sin is better than running to sin, I guess, but I don't know. I'm just telling you. That's the commentary. That's the rabbinic comment, later rabbinic commentary. Yes, because people ask the question that Philip just asked, which is where's that even from? So yes, so the red and white is from Isaiah, but the running part. Okay. There you go.
Sounds like it's red.
Definitely, but the whole idea of this, now, wait, this next one is really good. Well, because this one, like I knew we were going to get to this one. I didn't know how far we'd get, but I know we'd get to this one. The Gemara says, one who sees Ishmael in her. And this is really weird because we haven't talked about anybody else really biblical in your dreams popping up, but Ishmael in a dream? Ishmael in a dream. It's an omen that his prayer will be heard, just as Ishmael's prayer was heard. Because his name, Shmael, means God will hear. So God heard his prayer, which was, I don't want to die here in the desert, after he was sent away by Abraham and Sarah. So Ishmael in a dream is not a bad sign, it's a good sign. Which you can understand why it would be a bad sign, because this refers specifically to one who saw Ishmael ben Avraham, Avraham's son, but not if he saw a random Arab. Oh my gosh, you can't make this up. This was written 2,000 years ago. One who sees a camel in a dream, that is an omen that death will be decreed from him from heaven, but he was spared. So he was gonna die, but he's not gonna die if he sees a camel, a gamal. Yeah, if you see a random Arab in a dream, it's not a good sign. They didn't really explain why, they didn't say anything more, but that's it. The next line, the next words, camels, you're gonna be okay. That's the weird thing, because you'd say like, how would they know? They knew, like if in your dream, you know, look, how do you know in your dream that the person you saw was not, how do you know? Well, Ishmael came and said, hey, I'm Ishmael, the son of Abraham. But if you see some random Arab in your dream, it's not good, it's not good. It's not good.
But again, this is where the things changed in the 20th century, because now you have photography, film, video.
Uh-huh.
So your dreams now, if you saw Ishmael portrayed in a movie.
Yeah.
That would be.
I've never seen Ishmael portrayed in movies. No, but I will. No, you are right. But I'll give you an example that is very real. If you saw some random guy from the Bible, from the Roman period, a Jew from the Roman period, you'd go, oh, okay, well, I guess it's some random guy. But if you had a dream that you saw Jesus in a dream, everyone would know what Jesus looked like. He's got a beard, he's got long hair. Oh, yeah, that's Jesus. I dreamt about Jesus. How do you know it was Jesus and not some random guy from the biblical period? And some guy made an appearance in my dream. It wasn't Jesus. That was Brian. I had a dream about Brian from the life of Brian. No, I guess you would know. So yes, there is, to your point, there are images that have been put in our head of the way people look. And that would be one of them. That would be one biblical person that we would put into we would bank that away. That's the same way if somebody said, I dreamt of Santa Claus, you'd be like, oh yeah, I know what you meant.
That's also the thing with, in dreams, the brain can't fabricate a face. Like it has to recreate a face that you've seen before.
Well, it gets more complicated than that, Jesse, because there are some Freudian dream, there are some people who say that everything you dream, every person you dream is you.
Is you. Yes.
Not only do you not fabricate the dream, no, you're not fabricating those people, that every person that's in your dream is you.
Because one thing of the people I've dreamed of, I mean, they do mannerisms of the people I know,
Right.
but I mean, they don't like.
Just remember that though. Right? You knew I was going to say, Joyce.
I knew it.
So that's the interesting thing, that when we talk about people that we see in our dreams, if we identify them as somebody else, is that also like, are we not like superficially, if you drill down and say that everything that you were, the theory behind it to some extent is based on the fact that everything that you dream, that somebody's saying into a dream, was something you created.
That's right.
That's the
Your brain, your
being
thoughts
John
create.
Malkovich, that's where you go down the Malkovich. The person who's uttering whatever they're saying is words that you generated. That's
But then, for the sake of it, what about if the one extraordinary case of the guy with the red lamp story, did you hear that? Basically, it was a guy who received a traumatic head injury, like somebody tackled him and he got a traumatic head injury. So he was unconscious for about 5 minutes-ish, and then like a campus security guy picked him up and was like, hey, are you okay? But in that 5 minutes he was knocked out, he dreamed 30 years of his life, got married to a woman, had 2 kids, and then all of a sudden he noticed a red lamp in his room. And so he started staring at it for days and days and days in his brain, and all of a sudden that red light was him waking back up in reality. But like he had a whole family in this dream and lived 30 whole years of his life, and he actually had severe mental trauma because he lost a family. He lived 30 years, because he went to the hospital, watched these dream kids get born, grow, graduate high school, and then they disappeared, and his wife. And he sees them in dreams now when he goes to bed. So I'm like, so how did he fabricate those people?
well, he still fabricated them, but but whatever he dream, I mean, his attachment to the dream was real.
That was that same thing was a Star Trek episode.
Yeah, I think I heard about that one.
And
They
it's,
probably got it from that guy's story.
yeah, a friend of mine, his brother wrote the script for that. Interesting. But all the memories were intact, like he had lived an entire life
Mhm.
in that dream.
So, yeah, when we see people in our dreams, that's it's not dealt with a lot. Most of what we are going to deal with here is images and animals, plants, those kind of things. Oh yeah, the thing about your camel part was Rabbi Chama, son of Rabbi Hanina, said, what verse alludes to this? I will go down with you into Egypt, and I will surely bring you up again. Gam alo, and that is an acronym which is Gamal, which is the camel. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzhak said the source is for this is from another verse. The Lord also, Gam, has put away your sin, and you shall not die, which is from Samuel. So that's another use of the word Gam. So camels in a dream are not bad. So camels are good in a dream, that you've been spared something. Here's another guy though. One who sees Pinchas in a dream, it is an omen that a miracle will be performed on his behalf, just as miracles were performed for Pinchas. Pinchas was the grandson of Aaron, the one who is very zealous for God and helps end the plague in the book of Numbers of Pinchas is good to see in your dreams too. But again, for the most part, you're not dealing with biblical people that you see in dreams. No, here's a very interesting one. One who sees an elephant appeal in a dream is an omen that miracles, palaot, will be performed for him. One who sees multiple elephants in a dream, miracles upon miracles will be performed for them. Oh, that's nice. Like Amora asks, was it not taught in a Baraita? All species of animals are good omens in a dream, with the exception of an elephant and a monkey? Whoa. Elephant and monkey? Not good. Gamora answers, Lo kasha, this is not difficult. Not a problem. This opinion that seeing an elephant is a good omen refers to a case where one saw it saddled elephant. While this opinion that is a bad omen refers to a case where the elephant is not saddled. You don't want to see an unsaddled elephant in your dream. All right. One who sees a man named Huna in a dream. Whoa, that's kind of interesting because it's not a specific Huna, it's just any guy named Huna. It is a sign that a miracle will be performed for him. For the letter Nun in the name of the name Huna represents the word for nest, for miracle. One who sees a man named Hanina or Hananya or Yochanan, it is a sign that many miracles will be performed for him because the letter Nun appears twice in those names. They have two Nuns. So that's an interesting thing. You see people with certain names, that's a good sign. Interesting. One who sees a eulogy in a dream, it is a sign that the heavens had mercy upon him and spared him from a divine death sentence, and there will be no need to eulogize him in reality. If you hear your eulogy while you're sleeping, it means you're not going to have to, it's not going to happen. It means you're not going to die. The Gemara restricts the statement and says this only applies if you saw the eulogy written and not yet delivered. So if you hear somebody delivering it, that's not good. But if you see it not being said, that's okay. If you see it typed out in front of you, like for example, nowadays, interesting. Okay. See it up on the screen. One who answers in a dream, may his great name be blessed from the Kaddish, is assured that he is the one who has a place in the world to come. One who sees himself reciting Shema in a dream is worthy of having the divine presence rest upon him. But his generation is unworthy, and therefore the divine presence does not actually rest upon him. Well, that's interesting. So if you see yourself saying certain things in your dream, right? What is one of the things you want to see you're saying in your dream? Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach. Part that we say in the Kaddish. May his name be great when we say that in the Kaddish. If you say that, that's good. That's a good thing. And if you're saying the Shema, well, it could be a problem because you are worthy of the divine presence, but you have a problem, and the time that you live is not a good time. It's not a good time. It's not good. It's not a good time for you to live. One who sees himself done phylacteries, if you're putting on tefillin in a dream, should anticipate greatness, as it says, and all the peoples of the earth shall see that the name of the Lord is called upon you, and they shall be afraid of you, from Deuteronomy. So that's a good sign. And it was also taught in a bright that Rabbi Eliezer the Great says that the name of the Lord is called upon you refers to the phylacteries, the tefillin on the head, as it represents God's name on a man. So it's like God's name is on the man. One who sees himself praying in a dream, it is an auspicious omen. However, the Gemara adds a caveat and says, this only applies in a case where he saw in the dream that he had not yet finished his prayer and there is therefore still close to God. If in the dream he has already finished the prayer, it is not an omen. So it's not necessarily a bad omen, it just doesn't mean anything. But if you hear yourself in the prayer and you haven't finished, that's good. That's a good sign. So if you're praying in your dream and you haven't finished praying, that's good. Okay. Basically, you're seeing almost everything in the dream is good. Because what are they doing? They're saying even in the cases where you've heard that those things are bad, it's a limited case. Yeah, elephants are good. Unless, of course, they don't have a saddle on them. Okay, well, but normally it's fine. An elephant's fine. One who sees that he had relations with his mother in a dream. Now, nobody wants to dream about that. Nobody wants to dream about that.
Any topics that were just off topic?
No, it's not. It could happen. John, it could happen. And guess what? If he did, he should anticipate attaining understanding, as it says, yea, if you call for understanding. The word is connected to the word which means if. And this is a homiletic interpretation. Is considered to be the equivalent of One who sees that he had relations with a betrothed woman in a dream, he should anticipate Torah, as it is stated, Moses commanded us Torah, an inheritance, a morashah, which is also could be a dowry of the congregation of Jacob. Do not read morashah, rather it is morashah, the betrothed. One who sees that he had relations with his sister in a dream should anticipate wisdom, as it is stated, say unto wisdom, you are my sister, from Proverbs. One who sees that he had relations with a married woman in a dream is assured that he is one who has a place in the world to come. He receives his place as well as that of another person in the Garden of Eden, as the married woman represents a portion belonging to someone else. However, the Gemara adds a caveat. This only applies in a case where he did not know her and was not thinking about her that evening. Rather, he saw an unidentified woman in his dream. Shit. No, John, the reason why this is here is it's telling you that if you're dreaming about a woman that you know, it's different. That's not a good omen. So they're not saying it's bad. It's not saying that you're going to hell if you dreamt about a woman that you know. That's not your wife. Okay? What it's telling you is that, because they know that that's going to happen, right? So they're just so you know, they're not saying that you're going to hell because you had a dream about it. But when they're talking about a dream that somebody had, and they're having sex with a woman who's married to somebody else, they don't know the woman. That would be bad.
They're a woman with a man.
They're not talking to women, okay? They're not. I don't know what to tell you. But what I'm telling you is this. It is a troubling dream. The guy woke up, oh my gosh, I had a horrible dream that I'm having sex with a married woman. Did you know the woman? No. And then don't worry about it. Because the person would have been upset about it. But now it's telling you it's not a problem. It's actually can be interpreted in a way. Now, guy wakes up, I had sex with my sister in my dream. That's horrible. I had a horrible dream. But he's telling you, it's not a problem. It's telling you that the thing you dreamt about is not necessarily something you want to do. Isn't that comforting? It's comforting to me. Yes, because it's saying that it's normal. It's a normal thing that pops in your mind, something weird.
So that is not normal.
It's not, but it's not abnormal. It's not, you don't want it to happen, but it's telling you that if it happens, it's not the end of the world. No, it's comforting. It's comforting that the thing that you dreamt about that's so disturbing is not an indication that you're a pervert. Isn't that comforting? Comforting to me. Jesse, wait, yeah.
Well, just 'cause this is all in relation to the heretic story.
No, it's not. It said, it's, I know it says it, but it,
It also mentions olives later on.
correct, but it's not, but it doesn't have everything that he dreamt about, but it is telling you, Jesse, look, they're definitely riffing on it. There's no question. But the commentary that this is the same guy is not true. Okay, good. Because if it's in that book, that's an Orthodox translation that's messing you up. Correct. Other than that's not the point in the heretic story. The point in the heretic story is that he exposed the heretic for all the horrible things that he had done. So his dream.
The idea that, right, the Rambam idea of a Jew is a Jew is a Jew. Because saying it doesn't matter that he did all these bad things because he's still a Jew. He's still guaranteed wisdom.
Look, it's an interesting point, but that's not the point of the story of the way that it was presented. I know what you're saying, that can be taken out of it. But the important thing of the way that it was presented in the first place was that his dream, he told the rabbi what he had done was bad. There's no question what he had done was bad. The interesting thing is that the rabbis, what they just did is they basically told you that all of those things that don't have to be literal, which in that story they were. The fact that those things that were so weird actually were literal things. And again, here the literal things are not, it's been flipped. And to me, it's comforting. The rabbis basically just told you that the weird things that you dream about are not literal things that you've done.
So that's in terms of know her.
Yeah.
Define know, I'm going into the.
No, they're saying he had relations.
Again, post 1900 modern media, you can have a dream about a famous actress, right?
Yeah.
But do you know her? No, you never met her. You don't know her. You've seen her. That's an interesting point because to some extent, I would say what they're really saying here is that if your dream was not so much a dream that has symbolic meaning, but was you were playing out a fantasy that you had in your daily life, this doesn't hold. That's probably something you need to work on and understand that's not a good thing, right? That's not a positive thing. There's no interpretation to that. That's what they're simply saying. If he knew her, if he did not know her and was not thinking about her during his waking time. If he was thinking about her during a waking time, which they're basically saying, he's dreaming about her during the day. And that dream that he had about her at night was not a symbolic dream. That was a dream that was a literal dream that he was having sex with a woman that he wanted to have sex with.
This also just a continuation of the difference of Judaism where we're not too concerned with thought, right? Like thoughts aren't evil, actions are evil.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I've seen that in modern.
Yes, but
theology.
this is one of the examples that they're understanding that your thought during the day is something that you do have to work on. What they didn't do is they didn't really address it. Maybe they said something in the commentary on that. Is there anything in your commentary about not thinking about her during the day, during your waking hours? For the last part, yeah, that's reply.
It's a short that doesn't become the image being woman. who belongs to somebody else indicates that the dream will obtain not only his share, but even a share that
Yeah.
would have gone to somebody else.
Yeah, but what about the part about a woman that he was thinking about during the day? That's the question. What do they specifically say about that?
If he knows a particular woman about who he dreamed, then we can assume this dream is nothing but the byproducts of thoughts and carries no special meaning.
Yeah, so they're basically saying it doesn't have any meaning. And that gets to your point, which is
Yeah,
that we're not held accountable for our thoughts.
that's that theological split between Jews and Christians,
Mhm.
where Christians say thought can be illegal or thought can be a crime.
Yes. So this is definitely that very interesting point where thought might become action, which is
Isn't
that's
that,
the coveting, the law of coveting in the Torah. Because people are upset with that one, or they're challenged by it. Let's say that we have one of the 10 Commandments that says you shall not covet. Right? Well, that's a thought. But the rabbis interpret that it's more than just a thought. It's when you start planning to acquire that thing from that other person has. And not that you want to have one of those things, but you want to have that thing. If you covet your neighbor's wife, it's not that you want to have a wife too, but you want to have his wife. And you're planning on achieving it and start scheming towards it. So the thought becomes more than just a thing in your head, it becomes your plan. So yeah, that is the separation. Yeah, Philip, you were gonna say
so
something.
there's that famous interview where Jimmy Carter said that
Yeah, in his mind many
in his
times.
mind.
Yeah,
And that, when I read that,
yeah.
it made no sense to me as a Jew.
Jews were like, "What are you talking
Yeah, I
about?"
was like, huh?
Yeah, that was the Playboy interview that he gave,
It's like,
like 1979. People are still talking about it. Jimmy Carter's that he had committed adultery many times in his mind. He did a Playboy interview in 79. He wanted to be set up for that. I just want you to know. I just knew exactly where he was going with that.
but-
So he wanted
but
to.
isn't that, I mean, it's a little off topic, but that makes, someone's not just going through life, daily life in America,
Yeah,
in the West. I run up against that,
yeah,
and someone's talking to me, and I'm like, I don't understand what you're talking about.
yeah. Sometimes it does hit us with that. Yeah, there's some stuff in here though that again, the good takeaway from this, and we have a little bit more to read, but our dreams we're not held responsible for the things we dream, that they're literal, that they're things that we have to do, or that we have done, or that we're gonna do. Rabbi Chia Bar Abba said, "One who sees wheat in a dream has seen peace. As it is stated, he makes your borders peace. He gives you in plenty the fat of the wheat. And one who sees barley in a dream, se'orim in a dream, that's a sign that his iniquities are taken away, as it is said, and your iniquity is taken vesar avanoch, which is vesar is connected to se'orim. And your sin expiated, Isaiah 6:7. Se'orim is an acronym for Sar Avon. So that's another example where the thing is a combination of words, a couple of words. Rabbi Zera said, I did not ascend from Babylonia to Eretz Israel until I saw barley in my dream. So that was a sign for him. Barley, he dreamt of barley and he got to go to Eretz Israel. One who sees a vine laden with grapes in a dream, it is an omen that his wife will not miscarry. Ooh, that's interesting. As it is stated, your wife shall be as a fruitful vine in the innermost parts of your house. That's from Psalms. One who sees a planted vine branch in a dream should anticipate the Messiah, as it is stated, binding his colt onto the vine and his donkey's colt onto the vine branch, which is part of Jacob's blessings to his sons. That this will be this is a symbol of the Messiah. It doesn't say that in the blessing, but it's interpreted that that's talking about the Messianic era. One who sees a fig tree in a dream, It is a sign that his Torah is preserved within him, as it is stated, one who keeps the fig tree shall eat the fruit thereof, from Proverbs. One who sees pomegranates in a dream, if they were small, his business will flourish like the seeds of the pomegranate, which are numerous, and if they are large, his business will increase like a pomegranate. One who saw slices of pomegranate in his dream, if he is a Torah scholar, he should anticipate Torah, as it is stated, I would cause you to drink of spiced wine to the juice of my pomegranate, which is from Song of Songs and seems to be a love poem, but they interpret it as Torah. Yeah, it's a tradition, it's an allusion to Torah. And if the dreamer is an ignoramus, he should anticipate mitzvot. So if he doesn't know Torah, don't worry. He's not dreaming about Torah, he's dreaming about mitzvot, doing good deeds. As is stated also in Song of Songs, your temples are like a split pomegranate. Wow. So there's a really nice thing about pomegranates. The Gemara previously interpreted homiletically. What is the meaning of the word your temples, rakatech? Even the most ignorant, rekanim among you, Israel, are full of mitzvot like a pomegranate. So rekatech is your temples. So if there's nothing in your temples, between your temples, even those people are like a pomegranate. It's a play on the words, right? For pomegranate. So pomegranates are good to have in your dreams. What about olives? One who sees olives in a dream, right? We talked about this, and again, you gave this example, Jesse, that there was olives already we read about, or at least olive oil. But what about olives? If they're small, it is a sign that his business will flourish and increase and be durable like olives. However, the Gemara adds a caveat. This only applies when he sees the fruit of an olive tree, but one who sees olive trees, it is a sign that he will have many children. As it is stated, your children like olive plants round about your table, from Psalms. Some say that one who sees an olive tree in a dream, it is a sign that a good reputation will spread for him. As it is stated, the Lord called your name a leafy olive tree, fair with goodly fruit. One who sees an olive oil in a dream should anticipate the light of Torah, right? Because the oil gives you burn that for light, right? As it is stated, that they bring unto you pure olive oil, eaten for the light, from Exodus. One who sees palm trees, tamarim, that's like dates, right? In a dream, is a sign that his transgressions have ceased. As it is stated, your iniquity is finished, O daughter of Zion, which is, again, as the Gemara likens tamara, a date to tamra, which means no evil, end of evil. So again, almost everything you see is good. Almost everything you can see in a dream is a good thing. It's a good thing. Now, what about some of these foods? Rav Yosef said, one who sees a goat in a dream, it is a sign that his year will be blessed. One who sees goats, more than one goat, a goat, that's good, a good year, but his years will be blessed. It is stated there will be goat's milk enough for your food, for the food of your household, and for the sustenance of your maidens, from Proverbs. One who sees a myrtle in a dream, it is a sign that his property will be successful. And if he does not own property, it is a sign that he will receive an inheritance. Well, that's really good if you see a myrtle, right? That's part of the lulav and etrog set. Is we have a myrtle that is a really nice smelling plant. Ula said, and some say it was taught in a baraita. He didn't say it, somebody else said it. This applies exclusively to a case where he saw them on their stem. One who sees an etrog, right, from the lulav said as well in a dream is a sign that he is honored, hadur, before his creator. As it is stated with regard to the citron, the fruit of the goodly trees, the hadar, branches of palm trees. One who sees a palm branch then, right? What if you see a palm branch? Well, we didn't get the willow, but we got everything else. But we got the lulav in a dream. That is a sign that he has one heart for his Father in heaven. Lulav is interpreted as homiletically as lo lev. He has heart. Lo lev, a lev to him is what lulav is a symbol for. So palm branches, etrog, the myrtle, we didn't get the willow. Here's an interesting one. One who sees a goose in a dream should anticipate wisdom, as it is stated. Wisdom cry aloud in the streets. She utters her voice in the broad places, and geese tend to sound their voices, right? One who dreams he has relations with the goose. Well, that's a little bit more complicated. but that's not bad. He will become head of the yeshiva. Rav Yahashi said, I saw a goose and had relations with it in my dream, and I ascended to greatness and became the head of the yeshiva. So there's like the guy coming out with a testimony. And I saw a goose and had sex with it, and now I'm the head of the yeshiva. You can see the commercial. Dang, that's pretty weird. Pretty weird.
Something to brag about.
Yeah, I know. I mean, look, what it takes a lot of nerve, and he came out and said it. Look at me, I got my own yeshiva. One who sees a rooster in a dream should anticipate a male child. Well, that makes sense. One who sees multiple roosters should expect male children. One who sees a hen, a tarnagolet, should anticipate, that's, the female side, you'd think it would be daughters, no? One who sees a tarnagolet should anticipate a beautiful garden and rejoice. A tarbitza na'ala vegale, which is a acronym. A tarnagolet is interpreted as an acronym for tarbitza na'ala vegale. One who sees eggs in a dream, it is a sign that his request is pending, right? As an egg is a beya, which is Aramaic, similar to the term for request, a beya and beya.
You see a scrambled egg, you're hungry. Sorry.
Well, it says right here, if one who sees the eggs are broke, it is a sign that a request has already been granted, as that which was hidden inside the shell was revealed. The same is true of nuts, and the same is true of cucumbers, and the same is true of all glass vessels, and the same is true of anything similarly fragile that broke in his dream. It is a sign that his request is granted. So you see broken eggs, you see broken stuff, broken glass. It means you're. I guess they're talking about pickles. I don't know. I mean, I guess break a cucumber. Well, not all nuts are easily broken either, but
Yeah, like the cracking nuts.
I understand. Well, I guess you crack a cucumber too. I don't know. You're eating a raw cucumber. You're having it's a peeled up cucumber, you got a pickle now. It's not it's not, everything's good. Everything's good in your dream.
Yeah,
Well,
but the pickles and cucumbers are soft.
I know, that's when I know, but they've been cut up. Okay, but they've been cut. One who dreams that he entered a city, it is a sign that his desires will be fulfilled, as it is stated, and he led them unto their desired haven, which is again, a line from Psalms. One who shaves his own head in a dream, it is a good omen for him, as the removal of undesired hairs is a sign of renewal and greatness. If he shaved his head and his beard in a dream, both, it is a good omen for him and his entire family. One who sits in a boat in a dream, it is a sign that good reputation will spread for him. If he sees himself sitting in a large boat, there you go, John. It's a good reputation will spread for him and his entire family. The Gemara notes that this only applies where the boat was floating high on the waves. So I guess if it's sinking, it's not a good sign. Now here's the good one, John. Take this one to the bank. You say that everything's in there. One who defecates in a dream. It is a good omen for him, as it is stated, he that is bent down shall speedily be loosed, and he shall not go down dying into the pit, neither shall his bread fail, from Isaiah. The Gemara notes that this only applies where he does not wipe and get his hands dirty. Good to know, guys. You don't want to have dirty hands in your dream. If you have dirty hands in your dream, that's not good. So there you go. That's if you're going into the dream. If you're going in the bathroom in your dream. Yeah, back in the day, they could sometimes get messy.
But the people who always talk about cleaning, something that I don't want.
No, but if you're seeing that you're dirty, it's all dirty on your hands. It doesn't say it's bad. It just doesn't say that that's good. It doesn't say that he didn't have, maybe he didn't have to wipe. He didn't have to wipe. He doesn't have to wipe. He's just going to the bathroom and that's it. Got rid of it. I didn't have to, you understand. He didn't look at his dirty hands after he pooped. You don't have to dream of everything in your dream. One who climbs up to the roof in his dream, it is a sign that he will ascend to greatness. If after he climbed up, he climbed back down, it is a sign he will descend from the greatness he achieved. Abai, that's not so good. Abai and Rava both said, once one ascended to the roof in his dream, he ascended. And even if his dreams that he descended, it remains a good omen. So they kind of hedge that a little bit and say, it's not necessarily bad if he comes down. This is an interesting one. One who rips his clothing in a dream, it is a sign that they rip up his sentence. Well, that's good, right? One who stands naked in Babylonia in a dream. I've never had that dream. Now I'm going to probably. It is a sign that he stands free of transgression. Wow. So he's free of transgression. Yeah, but if you're, listen, I don't know how much we're going to get to today because we're almost done, but everything, it can be in a dream. Yeah. Yeah.
Judaism view, like when you have one who is passed who comes to communicate with you.
Well, interestingly, we get to dreaming about things or people. Well, we saw a couple about people. But I don't know if I don't know. We're not going to, maybe what we'll do is next week we'll finish up a little bit with dreams because there's still a little bit more, but it doesn't, we'll get to it. We will get to it. Let's finish this one last part here. We're almost done with this one. So being naked in your dream, not necessarily bad. Even in Babylonia, it's not bad. If one dreamed he stood naked in Eretz Yisrael, it is a sign that he's naked without mitzvot. One who dreams that he was apprehended and guarded by a soldier, it is a sign that protection was provided for him in heaven. If he sees that he's wearing a neck chain, a collar, right? But and they called it a neck chain in that time in Latin was a collar was a chain, was a irons, like a slave. It is a sign they have increased his level of protection. However, the Gemara notes that this only applies to a case where his neck was placed in a neck chain. If his neck was simply placed in a noose, it does not indicate heavenly protection. Well, that's interesting because it's not necessarily bad, but it doesn't say he's good, which the other one seems bad, but it's not. So it's interesting how the couple of the bad ones are ones that you wouldn't think would be bad at all. Naked in Babylonia is good, and being naked in Israel is not good. It's very strange that like you'd think that some of these would be good and they're bad, and the ones that are bad turn out to be good. One who enters a marsh in a dream, it is a sign that he will become head of yeshiva, as he appears to be standing alone with all the bulrushes, large and small, surrounding him like the head of yeshiva, around whom all the students gather. One who dreams that he has entered a forest and sees only large trees around him, it is a sign that he will be made head of only the advanced students, the Kala, where he will explain the lessons only to the outstanding students in the yeshiva, each of whom is himself a great tree set apart from the others. So those are dreams that these rabbis want to have. Now, I was just going to say, we'll read one more and then I want to finish with this last one. The Gemara relates, Rav Papa and Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yehoshua, each saw in a dream. They each had a dream. Rav Papa, who saw that he entered a marsh in his dream, was appointed head of the yeshiva. Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yehoshua, who entered the forest in his dream, was appointed head of the advanced students. Some say that both of them dreamed that they entered a marsh, but Rav Papa, who dreamed that a drum hung from his neck, was appointed head of the yeshiva, as a banging drum symbolizes the head of the yeshiva who sounds his voice in public. Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yehoshua, who did not dream that a drum hung around his neck, was only appointed head of the advanced students. Rav Ashi said, I dreamed that I entered a marsh and hung a drum and beat it, and Rav Ashi became head of the yeshiva. So again, The dreams are, they're symbolic of these achievements that these guys have. I think one of the more interesting things is that you'd think that being head of the advanced students would be good. It's not. You're only like, the best is to be the head of the whole yeshiva, not just the advanced students. The advanced students, are already pretty well on, but if you could teach everybody, if you're responsible for everybody, that's really great. But let's just read this one last thing. The Tana recited Mishnah before Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak taught, one who lets blood in a dream, it is a sign that his transgressions have been forgiven, because red, the color of blood, is a metaphor for sin. Though your sins be as scarlet, though they be red like crimson, from Isaiah, right at the beginning of Isaiah. Consequently, bloodletting can symbolize transgressions leaving him. And I want you just to know that, one last part, no, because we're not going to get to the snakes. The snakes, we're just finishing with bloodletting. The Gemara asks, what was it not taught in a Baraita? One who sees that he is bloodletting in a dream, it is a sign that his transgressions are enumerated before him. The Gemara answers, what is meant by enumerated? This means they are enumerated to be forgiven. Now, that's what we're going to finish with. It tells you that in the ancient world, even amongst us, bloodletting was part of what people had done. And bloodletting was considered medical practice. And it was not even thought of, like, there was no question that that was an acceptable form of medical practice. And that's probably how George Washington died. So they were doing it to people for a long time. But as bad as it was and as dangerous as it was, the rabbis teach us that dreaming about it is not necessarily a bad thing. So again, the thing to take away tonight is that if you dream about something bad, it doesn't necessarily mean something bad is going to happen to you. Oftentimes it means the exact opposite. So again, I hope everyone has good dreams, or maybe you have bad dreams. And
Doesn't matter.
and it means that they're going to be good. So take care, everybody. We will see you next week as we're moving through December, and we'll see you Friday night for Shabbos.
Bye.
Or we'll see you
Thank
tomorrow
you.
night at BJ's. So dream about pizza. Dream about pizza at BJ's.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Take care. Good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Rabbi.